Welcome to another SEAJBL podcast here. Today we're in Cafe Chiet in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. This is Coach Anthony. Those that hopefully watched the first podcast, I am Coach Fauzi. I'm the founder and GM here at SEAJBL in Cambodia. And here is a coach, man. You've been here, 7 years? And that's how I sort of bumped into you.
I've been here almost 10 years. April 9th will be 10 years. April 10, yeah.
Nice. And I guess bit funny story, man. I actually spotted your post in your sessions before I even met you, man. I was like, this guy is doing $1 sessions in Cambodia. What is this dude doing, man? Like,
No.
What sort of business is that? Yeah, but
it's a community project. Like, it's one of those projects where if you want it to grow, you have to be willing to put in effort and not make any money off of it. So I know, $1 is very, very low. It's extremely affordable. But it was something to what can I do to get back to the other kids who can't afford, a higher price or don't have anything like that. So it was able to attract people to continue to play basketball at a extremely affordable pace where they can still get quality training and some sort of organizational plan.
So look, you explained that to me when I first met you, and I didn't think you were that crazy after that.
No.
But look, I guess today we have an interesting topic to talk about, which is I've got a bit of a long title here, but it's basically why is recreational basketball viewed as entertainment in Cambodia? And that's something that we've been talking about for a while now since we've met, right? That kids don't seem to, and families don't seem to really treat it seriously enough to actually advance the game. And I guess what sort of your I guess maybe let's start with your background. I guess you grew up in the States, right?
Correct. So originally from the US, been in Cambodia for 10 years. So what is that, like 2016? I want to say 2016. Yeah. But before that, like when I was in the US, I played every sport. I was able to participate, compete, and be part of every sport. It didn't matter if it was American football, basketball, track and field, even pole vaulting. You know what I mean? It was kind of like available because that was part of my curriculum in the school. And here it's a little bit different. Unless you go to maybe a higher end international school, athletics isn't part of the curriculum. It's something that's maybe not viewed as necessary or wanted to be. So it's almost like, okay, well, me as a parent, I never had that. I never had athletics as a kid, and I was fine. So why does my child, my son, my daughter need that in their curriculum? Why can't I just keep it language, mathematics, Khmer or English?
I think that's an interesting observation. Like, you've been here obviously much longer than me, but I guess I grew up in Australia, you grew up in America. Recreational sport is part of our lifestyle. Right? That's it. Like, if you actually, of course, not everyone's sporty, that's a given, but everyone would have some sort of recreational activity. That's the key. Right? You simply can't be a child or a teenager that just goes to school, comes home, goes to school, comes home. Like this, it just doesn't make sense in a life, balance in that sense at that point of your life, right? So I think it's an interesting aspect here where, of course, kids go out, socialize, and they do have, little things that they do in their spare time. Absolutely. But the structured part of recreational activity, maybe that's the part what we do in Australia and in America in that sort of sense, is what seems to be missing here. And because it's missing here, and part of our goal with SEAJBL is to develop high quality basketball. It's very hard to do so. It's not a constant. It's not part of the lifestyle to a certain extent of these athletes.
True. Here it's a little bit behind. I just watching how things are changed. When I first came here, there might have been, basketball was not popular. It had little to no traction. There might have been 4 locations. There was CCC, there was NOCC, there was Premium, and there might have been like SEAJBL. That was the only 4 courts that were available, and majority of them are privately owned. So, if you don't have money and you don't have a group of friends that play basketball, you're not going to pay $35-$40 to rent out the court.
Those are gone now as well, aren't they?
I think Premium is no longer, when CCC is no longer. But since then, fast forward 8-9 years, basketball's, hit the ground running. It's expanded tenfold. You have new courts, All-Star, Score, Elevate, right? It's becoming that. And with that, with the want of more courts, it's because there's a demand for more athletics, more sports. And I see it every day. whether it's using a basketball court to play volleyball or using a tennis court to play pickleball, or I can't tell you how many run clubs there are now, and we mentioned it before, like, or maybe athletics, or you use the word balance, kind of like, okay, now having a balance, because we know as humans, we are not sedentary creatures. We need movement in order to go. And I think now it's becoming more popular, and people are kind of like, okay, this is the lifestyle I want to live, or I want my child to live it. So we need to find some sort of activity, and having many options, whether it's basketball, volleyball, running, pickleball. People want to stay active. So that's a huge thing I've seen kind of just turn over this new leaf in just these last 3.5 years.
What do you think sort of initiated that here?
I think a few things. I think one is having access to like social media. I think that was kind of like allowing you to kind of have insight into other countries. So now you don't have to go through and, you're not limited to the resources of just watching, your local athletes, but you have access to international athletes to watch them, whether it was on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook Live, and like kind of that's like a sneak peek, right? You see that, you go through and we do the same thing. So, I guess the whole way it's kind of going right now is being able to use this as a window or as a tool to kind of see, what's going on in the world, gives us something to emulate, or, something to kind of, build motivation from. We see it all the time. We go, as young kids, you would go watch your favorite basketball player. They would do a move, then you would go out an hour later after the game and try to recreate the same move, and you see that all the time. But if you've never seen that, then it's new to you. It's interesting. And I see the basketball community here blowing up, because I see the kids, now they have the nicer basketball shoes. They got the basketball jersey. You know what I mean? They got the one leg sleeve. They got the headband. They got the wristband. The whole culture is starting to swing here. And that's what it was 20 years ago in the US.
I feel like I've spoken to a lot of people since I've sort of come into town about 6 months ago now. And I understand also one of the big drivers of basketball here was the SEA Games, correct? In 2023.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
But sort of you were here on set that point.
Yeah.
Sort of, what was the vibe leading up to SEA Games in the basketball scene and at that point and when the games came here? And I actually don't really know much about 2023.
No. So, like, the Southeast Asia Games, as you don't know, it's a competition that's entered here locally with the neighboring countries. But what had happened is Cambodia had a very strong team, which they were able to actually make a deep run. Now, usually the number one leader in Southeast Asia are the Philippines. Like that's
No brainer.
That's part of their culture, and they're very good. They're still some of the best players that you'll ever meet. But when Cambodia had this really good team, they were able to make a deeper run. And when somebody's representing your country and they're winning and they're making you look good, we're behind them 100%. And I think that was one of the big things that really pushed that. Whether you knew about basketball or whether you were a fan or not, you knew that Cambodia basketball was winning in the ranks.
What did they finish in the SEA Games?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, they finished second in the season. But prior to that, like I don't think they would ever have gotten a medal.
Okay.
But yeah, they have a really good team. So.
And so after the SEA Games, I guess kids, like you said, I think that's the key with anything, right? You have to see it first to then be able to go, oh, that's interesting, that's cool, right? And like you said, you see a player, you go, oh wow, that player did that. I'm gonna go try and do that too. That looks so cool, right? So I guess players and youth and maybe even adults and just the general public here probably would have got more exposure to basketball at that point.
Yeah.
What happened after SEA Games? Like, was there,
So I going back like to the SEA Games, I think for a lot of people that was their closest viewing to an actual real high level basketball game. Before you have national games and all that, but it's still local talent. So when you bring in this international talent that's competing, from one country to the next, like you get to see things you never get to see. You get to see, athletes like operate at the highest level, and it's fun. It's exciting. It's everything that you would want a game to be. And I think with that, like I said, a lot of new fans came in and are like, okay, like this is basketball. I'm not against it, but I kind of like the way it is. I kind of like the entertainment. It's constant scoring, So that was really fun.
I think that's the thing about basketball, like. I saw it in maybe when I was about 8 years old. I guess I'm thinking about all the way back then, and I think it's a real energy, high octane sport, right? And that's why you see players push the ball up the floor, they dunk it, they do highlighters, plays that, back then you wouldn't know what it is, but like, wow, like, how did you do that, right? That's the thing, right? I guess shooting now is a premium as well. How do you get that ball in the ring like from 30 feet away? That's crazy, right? So, and I think that's no doubt, an aspect where, the SEA Games would have really, helped grow basketball as a profile here. But was there, did more programs start up after that, or did more facilities open, or how was it?
Everything. One of the things I forgot to mention is I think that was the year that Cambodia actually hosted the SEA Games.
Yes,
that's why it was such a big deal. Yeah. Is because now we are the hosts of this event, rather before when we were just participants or guests, and now we're putting on and we want to represent all sports, but we did very well in this one that we never usually compete in, and that was cool. So I think that, because I remember on that finals day, like, you couldn't even get in if you didn't get in early. Yeah, 100%. If you didn't get in early, you weren't getting in. Like, you were standing outside, or you were watching it online.
Okay.
But like, it was one of the events. It was no different for me watching a Kings game or a Bulls game. But it was super cool.
And I guess maybe that's the part where we, no doubt, when the SEA Games come here and you watch it, that is entertainment.
Yes,
right? That is entertainment as spectators when we go watch. But I guess that's the crossover between spectating something and participating in something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess that's part of the topic to an extent here, is that a lot of people view basketball, like here, like youth and parents to an extent, of course, that it's entertainment, right? And putting basketball in the same sort of realm as activities like movies or like hang out with your mates, or I don't know, what else is entertainment? Like, I don't know, going bowling. Like, is bowling entertainment? It's just a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
You just roll the ball down the alley and you try and get a score and you go home after.
Playing cards, something like that, right? Yeah. But the difference is with athletics, like, when you really get into it, there are some characteristics that kind of come with being part of a team, right? One of my favorite ones is, like, you learn how to become coachable. Like, you start to understand things like sacrifice, right? You play for a common goal. You're able to hold yourself accountable. You're able to hold others accountable. Like, you're able to deal with feedback. And those skills don't just go well on the basketball court or on the football field or anything like that. Like, those skills help you in life. And, like, that's the biggest thing, because if you've never been a part of a team, whether it was at work or on a sport, and, like, you try to go into the workforce, that's going to be something that you're going to have to, meet for the first time. And it's a little bit easier if you've had a team in the past that you've kind of been able to meld with or create or lead. Like, that's another thing. Being a leader on a team is a big role.
And I guess if we're starting to put some of these pieces that we're talking about together, basically it's like entertainment is occasional. You go to movies once a month. Go to movies once every 6 months. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, you go, whenever you feel like. But of course, basketball and sports in general, when it's taken as a recreational activity, has to have a level of commitment to an extent, right? There's that word, right? Commitment.
There's another one right there, commitment.
Even if it's not that you go every single week or 3 times a week, you at least probably do it, say, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference here. It's a lot of people here go, oh, I'll come 1 week and then we don't see them potentially for 3 weeks, and we'll rock up again for 2 weeks and not, things like that, right? What do you think might need to start to be understood more to be able to go understand this recreational activity and the commitment and the consistency to be able to achieve those positives that you're talking about, to be able to to maximize your participation?
Yeah, I think one is having access or having programs available that kind of allow that type of structure. Like, that's the biggest thing. Is it's hard to follow something if nothing has any structure. But if you come in and you work with a program, and that program says, hey, we're going to operate for 6 weeks, here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're okay with all that, and at the end of 6 weeks, there's an opportunity to continue or not continue, whatever, but at least you have structure for 6 weeks. And versus kind of like what I say, like winging it. If you're winging it every day, like, yeah, you can get by, but what's the end goal? Like, how are you going to develop players? How are you going to develop yourself? How are you going to develop, the program if there's no plan to put in place? So I think that's a huge thing, is structure, planning, and just like availability in order to participate.
I guess, and how do you think, It's part of our challenge at CJBL. We've come here, we're trying to do basketball, we're trying to get more kids involved in basketball. And parents, of course, especially the younger ones, they're the main driver of any child's activity, right?
Sure.
What do you think needs to be perhaps communicated to parents and I guess really as a Southeast Asian parent to share with them the benefits, like it's one thing to pitch it to, that we know it as, how we grew up and in our culture, in a sense, how sports and recreation fits together. But, you're quite familiar with Cambodian culture now, but what would appeal to them? You talk sometimes about that it's appealing and that sort of,
I think there's two ways to do it. I think there's two ways to kind of to sell or to convince. One way is to focus on the pros, right? Okay, we're getting your kid, outside, they're being part of a team, they're participating, in some sort of program. And then here's the opposite one is, okay, well, I can just list out all the cons, okay? Well, they're not at home, they're not sleeping, they're not on their phone, they're like those ones. So I guess depending on how the parent sees value, okay, I want my kid to be part of this, or I don't want my kid to do this. But either way, they both lead to being part of a program.
Yeah, and I guess the one I've heard a lot, and it's for guys and girls, but probably even, of course, more so for girls. What if my kid gets injured? that's
no.
And maybe I'll be honest. I growing up in Australia, I played sports since I was like 10 years old, right? And of course, I got injured. Broke my ankles, hurt my wrist, all these injuries in sports here. But I never really thought about what if I got injured? Like, it's not something, I don't know about you, but I thought about, it's just part of what it is.
Well, okay, so going back to what we talked about like structure and programming, and that's why it's so important to just have these programs that are actually have, players and coaches that are first aid certified, players and coaches that are certified in CPR, versus, these are just, just a couple guys who put together a program. No, these certificates and these qualifications matter. That's what allows you to be prepared for A, B, C, D, E, F, G, versus, okay, I can give you a million examples. Like, okay, my son or daughter's going to get in a motor accident. So should you never let him ride a moto?
Well, that's the plan.
Exactly, right? But no, that's going to happen. We know it might happen. Our best job is to be prepared if it happens. So I think that's the one thing is being prepared on so many levels. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen, the worst of the worst. I've seen kids get hit topside and then they fall and then go into a seizure or having a concussion, and the people in charge don't know the next steps to deal with that situation. And now because they're not prepared or they never thought it was going to happen, well, now that person's life is at risk when they shouldn't be. When they should be, hey, I'm joining this program. If it has, qualified teachers, educators, coaches, that's part why I chose your program.
It's funny that you're sort of talking about this area about first aid because, CJBL, I don't know, when we first met, I talked about it's a whole ecosystem. We're talking about one component of this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the players that are critical, the families, the parents, and that support. Coaches, of course, are critical. Good officials and referees are critical. The venues, of course, are critical.
Yeah, 100%.
But I guess what you're alluding to here is that the knowledge of things that maybe that 1%er, but kids do roll their ankle. Kids do, on the weekend when kids get crash, right? And just being able to manage that so he didn't freak out. It's not the end of the world. We can, get him, some sort of support and treatment, and hopefully hydrates better next week, and he's ready to go again, right? And that's all part of, I think, life lessons too, right? That you got to learn how to be able to push through some of these things. And I guess we of course have got, I think you're aware, we've got the coaching certificate here at CJBL that also has a first aid component here. But what is it that, if a parent came up to you and said, I want my kid to play basketball, but I'm scared they're going to get injured. How would you just give them a 30-second answer there?
Yeah. Okay. Let me think about that. That's a good question. Okay. So I the one thing I want to do is I want to provide the parent with some sort of peace of mind. I say, okay, we'll use basketball as an example. Okay, your son, right, Pitu, is going to participate in this league. In this league, there's going to be 9 other individuals on the court with him and 3 other officials, all of the same age or younger. Or maybe he's, if he's 12, then maybe 13. Okay, right? They will bump, they will bang, they will fall. Okay, in the event they roll their ankle, they deal with something like heat exhaustion, dehydration, cramping. We have the people in place to help treat that.
Mm.
You know, and just kind of reassure them, because I think that's ultimately what they want is, they know in the back of their head that that's an option. That's why they raise it up. You know, but just being like, hey, if that does happen, we already have this in place.
Mm.
You know, because again, why drive your car if you're gonna get in an accident?
Man,
You can't predict the future. You can only do the best to be, okay, I'm gonna be a defensive driver. But what if somebody hits you? That's not your fault. It happens, right? But we just want to be prepared for it.
We all think this, right? And then the best thing is go out there with bubble wrap on.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
stay in your room 24 hours a day,
Exactly.
and you just die of heart attack.
Exactly. You know.
But yeah, it's an interesting part of sport there, I guess. And I guess there's another challenge here, I think, with this whole entertainment / recreational part in Cambodia, which also has to do with the cost of the participation. I think that's an area where I find it interesting and important, because from a business perspective in running SEAJBL is that how do you balance the investment into this recreational activity versus entertainment? Because some of entertainment can be expensive, like go to a concert, right? Hell,
True.
Someone famous comes here, you're gonna pay premium, right?
True.
But I guess entertainment again is like movie tickets, a couple of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And you just sit there and you chill, right?
Yeah.
What's I'm sure there's all these costs, of course, associated with that too, but there's not things that I guess what I'm trying to suggest here is that there's probably less cost with entertainment in general versus all the things that you need to cover in recreation, getting, recreational activity, getting coaches in place, getting venues in place, getting equipment in place, maintaining that sort of equipment, all these things. But how do you think that we can continue to communicate the differences, so you're not comparing two things that are not the same thing? That's the key, right? When you're comparing two things that you think they're the same thing, but they're not, it makes no sense. But you got to go, this is something that's different. In fact, this is something that may never have been seen in Cambodia before to a perfect sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's trust and buying in the program. Like, if this, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, I would want to know what is the value that I'm able to extract from it, right? If a parent deems it as valuable, then they'll have no problem paying for it, or no problem, making the adjustment or creating the cost for it, or whatever it is, because they know that there is some sort of, they're going to reap some sort of benefit, whether it's connections, whether it's, access to another network, whether it's, getting their kid out of school. But there has to be something that they buy into, that they believe in. And then that's where the value is, because value isn't always financial, right? It can also be knowledge based, it can also be learning based, it can be all these other things. So that's the buy-in that they
I'm gonna ask you what feels like a big question here. Is value in sports winning? Because how many parents do you know and players that are driven simply by the result of sports? I joined this club or all these comp games, and then I lost 5 games, and there's no value in it.
Well, that's kind of the argument that's going on in the US right now is, okay, my son or daughter is joining this AAU program, right? And they're playing against a team that's, maybe they're better than them, and that team is just winning by 50, 60 points, and they're blowing it out. Yeah. So what are you learning when you're up by 50 to 60 points? Like, what are we actually, like, I'm a big advocate for sacrifice the winning and emphasize on the development. Once you get to, a very, very competitive level, 18, 17, 18, 19, 20, okay, then we start joining teams, we start joining like these really big programs, and then now we actually get paid, or we start earning money to actually pay. Okay, then it's a coach's job. This is your job to go through. But at these early ages, like, how do I say this? I watch it all the time. Like, players think they're good at basketball players, but they're not. I don't know how to say it. Like,
if you allude this to a life skill, though, here's the greater reality: you don't always win at life.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't expect to wake up every day and live every year of your life winning at every single thing you do. So when you have a loss, and sometimes you have bad periods in life, as we know now because we're older, right? Yeah. Then it's being able to handle that too. And I think that's what you allude to in regards to some of these attributes that recreational sports and basketball, of course, provides youth the opportunities to develop those skill sets. If you've never encountered it, how can you develop something you've never had? Right?
You won't be able to. You won't be able to, because it's bad for both parties. The party that's Okay, let's go back to a scenario again. You have a very dominant team, and you have a very team that's still learning. The team that's learning is just getting beat, right? Whether it's, like they're losing by a tremendous amount, 50, 60 points, where now for the next 20 minutes, every shot that they take is going to be focused on trying to acquire as many points, which is just going to lead to poor offense, more scoring on the side. But on the other side, because you've never dealt with some sort of obstacle or pressure or struggle, when you do get to that, that's unfamiliar territory. Why are both parties do like this one's getting beat up and this one's just dominating? Why is this team has stopped learning? This team has given up, and but there's no benefit for both parties. And like that's the biggest thing is where you really do have to sacrifice winning for development. If you do that, then the entire basketball community will grow in the later years. Then you have competitive players. So that way on an international level, okay, now the whole basketball scene has risen because the competition level has risen.
I think, but that's the key word. Like as you know, one of the key words I talk about with SEAJBL and the Cambodia junior basketball competition that just started is inclusivity, right? Any kid can play.
Yeah.
If you like basketball, you want to learn it, you've seen it somewhere, it looks cool, come, join, try. But guess what? We all started off day one, right?
Yeah,
always
100%.
You shot that first shot and you airballed, yeah? You just didn't even know how to dribble the ball and so forth. And it's a starting point and how quickly you get from there to a point where you become, let's say, called good, right? And how quickly you get there, right?
Yep.
And so I think in this situation here, there's always lessons to be had. Yeah, when in basketball here, I know when I coach teams, I've been on teams where we've won by 50 points. I've been on teams where we lost by 50 points.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with giving the right message to players as coaches. What is still the value in this, right? It's like, okay, we're losing by 50 points. Well, if we have a bad day in life, do we just give up?
True.
Hell, if we've had a bad week in life, do we just lie in bed the whole week? No, we should just get out there and keep doing what we got to do. And go again the next day and so on and so forth. And if we break it down to a small scenario here, it's basically a possession. Like you get down by 20 points in the first quarter. You're like, kids are already like, I just want to go home. I can't even bother trying. But you've got 3 more quarters to go.
Yeah.
Like, one of the messages I give as a coach is that we're down by 20 in the first quarter. Can we try to not lose by 20 in the second quarter? Could we try and, but they still get our asses kicked, lose by 10?
Yeah.
What adjustments can we make in those situations? Can we make some adjustments on our defense, better offensive spacing, all these little things? So there's little wins there. So if the second quarter we're going to lose by 10, that's a win, right? That's like the first quarter. But you break down these situations in basketball, and I think, I don't know about you, man, and I'm sure you've heard about people that when basketball changes their lives, and things like that. But and that's where recreational activities come into play, right? These skill sets that we learn over a consistent period of time as children, as kids, right, instills these values into us as adults.
Yeah.
But if you never have that opportunity to do it as kids, then it's you're going to have to find it from somewhere else. If it's not from sports, then it must be from somewhere else, or you're not going to get it anywhere.
True. And it's going to be foreign. But I like your comparison. I like your comparison to life because it's a series of adjustments, whether that's on a possession or quarter. And for us, it might be a day-to-day thing or a week-to-week thing. I applied for a job, I didn't get the job. So what do? Give up? No, I'm going to go through, I'm going to make some modifications to my resume. I'm going to apply to 5 more places. And then I'm going to go through all 5 again. And then that's how you have to do it. It's got to be the next one up, next one up, next one up. But yeah, it's got to be constant adjustments with the same focus as I'm willing to take these L's until they turn into W's, right? Like that's it.
You got to learn to lose before you learn to win. That's generally the case. And it's funny that sometimes players walk in and they get into a good team and they get all these W's first.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's just not the case.
Yeah.
It's not the case, right? I think like Cooper Flag, for example, man, he's won so many games as a youth coming up, and then now he's in Dallas, right?
And now he's in Dallas,
and you're mediocre. I think actually one of the stats is like in the NCAA, he never lost back-to-back games or something. Yeah. And then in Dallas, this is the learning curve, right? It's the learning curve of sports that drives you. And I guess maybe the last part of what this whole topic sort of encompasses is that, what do you think if we go back to the kids now? Okay, I know parents and kids, of course, we talk about winning. Yeah, it's success, winning. And it's not. It's the value in doing basketball, winning. Oh, this is valuable because I win lots of trophies. That's great. Yeah, and that's enjoyable, and that's part of the process. But when there's 10 teams in a competition, in the division, 9 don't win.
Yeah,
One
true,
does,
true.
right? But then you come back again. You try and
Yeah.
be those 9, try to be that one, and that one just has to try to maintain their top spot, right? That's how sports goes, right? And I guess another thing here, for example, kids seem to play a lot for money, right? They talk about, well, then the value is playing for money. But here's the crazy argument that I make, and I guess your thoughts here is that I say you should just play basketball to play basketball. Like, is that crazy? Like, I don't know about you.
No,
I
no.
never thought otherwise about that as a child. Yeah, as a
There's-
well.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with if you enjoy doing something, doing it, right? Like if I enjoy running. That doesn't mean I'm going to compete in the marathons. No, but I enjoy running. Cool. You can run. You can participate. You can join these run clubs. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you like doing that, do that.
But the kid looks at you, 15-year-old kid goes, "You're crazy. What? There's no prize. Or I just get a medal. I just like, what do you say to that? There you go. Like,
Well, I mean, okay. So like, here's like the thing. Like, okay, 15-year-old goes up to me, hey, like, what are we playing for, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's right,
like
that's right.
so. I mean, I guess I'm gonna probably answer with a question like, are you gonna play harder if it's for something, or are you gonna play harder if it's for nothing? Like right now, this has to be an emphasis on you. Like, what do you want? Do you want to be a better player, or do you want to win a prize? Because you can just be on a stacked team and sit on the bench and win,
Yeah.
right? Or do you want to lead your own team? And then now you understand how to control a game. Now you understand how to deal with pressure. Now, and I almost think there's more to learn if you're on the losing side. If you're on the losing side, I promise you, it probably sits with you a lot more. The next day, right? You're still riding that high from the win. Okay. But the lose, you're sitting with that for like the next 3 months.
But that's the key, though. I think as coaches and in junior sports here, so many kids lose and they give up.
Yeah.
Right. And again, the whole puzzle here has to be fitting each piece of the ecosystem into the right places and the right quantities to a certain extent too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to say to kids, you get value in losing, blah blah blah, and they look at you like you're crazy,
Yeah.
right? Because they just go home, they're upset, they're mad,
Yeah.
they're shitty, all this sort of stuff, and then they give up,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's those kids, but you need to have that sort of, I don't know how you develop it. Like, here's a question: is it a personality to have a chip on your shoulder? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like, man, I'm mad because I lost, so I'm gonna come back and work harder.
Yeah.
Versus, oh man, I lost, I better give up. I'm just like,
Yeah, no, I mean, right. There's both people exist in the world.
correct.
Both people exist. But you gotta have some self pride. You gotta have some, dignity, and you have to be your biggest fan. You have to be your biggest fan. And when you go out there, you have to think the most highly of yourself, right? You have to, because it really is you pushing yourself, right? If you don't want to play, you don't play. Cool. But if you already made a commitment, right? I'm gonna join this season. I'm gonna join this team. I'm gonna join this. Win or lose, I'm gonna finish out the season. So I might as well play hard. At the end of the season, I want to participate. Cool. But I've already made a commitment, so I might as well go through it. And I think that's part of one of the characteristics that I said that goes into just athletics. Like, okay, I agreed to be part of this team. All right, I was on it when we're winning. Now I don't want to show up when we're losing. No, you show up because you said you were going to show up the whole season. You don't. What do you call it? Like a fair weather fan? Yeah, you don't become a fair weather fan. Oh, I'm happy, and then we lose. Oh yeah, now I'm going to show up. No, they're like, you stick it out, and then when the season's over, you don't want to play. Hey, that's cool, man.
And I think we talk about value, right?
Yeah.
These are hopefully all the values that anyone that's watching maybe
These are the intangible things that come with athletics and being part of a team and like I don't know how you measure it. I guess you can measure it. You measure it, from the impact of the life of the person. How they dealt with loss, how they dealt with struggle, how they dealt with competition, how they dealt with confrontation, right? Also, how they handle winning, right? How they handle, stress, all these opportunities. The more that they're exposed to, the better the person will be prepared for life.
So, in summary, you said that I asked you the other day, should basketball be a critical part of life, right? Yeah, and a part of a youth, a lifestyle. And you said to me, hell yeah, right?
Yeah. I like basketball. I really like basketball.
Yeah.
I think basketball's one of the rare sports where you have to play both ways. But you have the creativity and the freedom to kind of express yourself. In a lot of other sports, you're kind of locked into a position. But as you've seen as basketball grows,
You
like
can control your outcomes.
you have better control of your
Yeah.
outcomes because there's so many possessions per game.
Or even the fact that there's 5 players on the team, so you're 20% of that
True,
opportunity.
true.
You look at soccer, for example, what's that, 10, 11?
Yeah,
players
that's
on
not
the
maybe
team?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're less
Yeah,
of that percentage,
exactly,
right? And you
yeah.
say like in Australia, AFL footy, Australian footy, right? That's like 20-something players out on the court. So
Yeah.
you're in the field.
You're small.
So that's the key. Even like say cricket,
Yeah.
things like that too. But basketball is 5.
Yeah.
If you don't even do your part, that you're already down 20%.
And it's
20% is a pretty big number,
Mhm.
in sport, right? So it's like, yeah, look, man, like you know, man, I love basketball. I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
All right,
Appreciate
and hopefully, those that have been watching this get some value out of this, and they understand more the value of basketball as a recreational activity.
Yeah, and play ball, have fun, join teams, join programs, like go move. Like, you know what I mean? Go do stuff.
Go
Go do stuff.
Go move.
Yeah, go move, man.